What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to JJD TV. I'm your host, Josh, and today we have a very special episode for you guys. We have continually grown this channel so far, everything Borussia Dortmund related, from our watch-alongs, previews, our 5 takeaways, FIFA content now, and now we're bringing on a very special guest who's done some wonderful things for charity, and we're going to get touched into a lot of that right now. But before we bring him up here, we're going to introduce him. I'm going to just talk a little blurb about him before we bring him right onto the screen here. His name is David Resnick, and he has done some amazing things so far, and it's just going to be very cool to get you guys familiar with some of his work. But a little blurb about him is that David is an American architect, and he has started creating something called Stadiums for Ants. And it started as a little hobby for him, which is now turned into a global fundraising. And it's just been so cool to see some of the work he's done, and we're lucky enough to have him on here. So let's bring him up. David, how are you today?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Not too bad, not too bad. So what we're going to do, as he's been obviously generous enough to come on our channel here, is we're just going to do a little Q&A with the brilliant man behind Stadiums for Ants. And David, before I start off with some of the questions, is there anything that you want to say or before we get going?
Yeah, I just want to say, first of all, thank you for having me on. It's a total pleasure and an honor to be here with you, man. And I absolutely love this stadium. I was lucky enough to go and catch a game. It was a year ago, but it was 2 seasons ago. I saw them play Hanover. It was the 6-goal, 5-1. It was unbelievable. I mean, to see to see 6 goals myself, and then for the first time being in that ground, and I just kind of fell in love with the club, like going there for the first time, and yeah, it was amazing. So
that's what we like to hear. I mean, we got viewers from pretty much every continent in the world, and it's just so cool hearing stories of what made someone from Argentina, Brazil, Canada, America, wherever these connections come to the club. It's so cool to hear about how that happens, and then to see the project that obviously you work on is absolutely fantastic. So I'm going to get off with our first question, David, and it's a question that kind of caught my eye. And I mentioned that, I mean, you're a very interesting person, but you're actually one of the 30 most interesting people of Cleveland in 2019. I just wanted you to touch on that a little bit, because I thought that kind of caught my eye when I did my little bit of homework on you.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, man. That was so I'm 37 years old. I went back to school a couple of years ago. I was in sales forever. And I had always kind of had this as like a little bit of a side hobby. And, you know, like growing up, I was into Legos and all that stuff. And I go back to school and I start building these little stadium models. And I built, I'm from Cleveland, Ohio. So I built the baseball stadium here. And I get an email in the middle of the semester from somebody who says, "You've been selected, Cleveland Magazine's one of the 30 most interesting people." and I'm like sitting in school, which is, weird, as being 36 or whatever I was at the time, and I'm sitting in school is weird enough as it is. And I get this email and I'm like, somebody's pulling my chain. This can't be real, right? Like this has to be like a scam or something. And it turns out it's the Cleveland Magazine, which is a pretty reputable publication in town. And yeah, it was a really, really cool experience, man. Really cool. So thank you for bringing that up.
That's awesome. I mean, look at that. We got one of 30 best, most interesting people of 2019 from Cleveland. Guys, come on. Like this is awesome. That's actually so cool. And that was one of the things that caught my attention. I just wanted to hear the little background story about it, and it cracked me up. But the one question I also wanted to ask, I mean, you kind of maybe touched on it, and you can maybe elaborate a little bit more, but like, what was the first idea, or what led to the creation of Stadium for Ants?
So, like I said, I've been doing these kind of on and off for a very long time. I built a model out of cardboard when I was like 13, and I didn't really go anywhere with it after that. And like I said, I went into sales after I went to college the first time. And I was just kind of like living my life, and some things happened and I wasn't in such a good place. And I was like, wow, I need a hobby. And it was actually my little brother who was like, dude, you need to build another stadium model. That's like your thing, remember? I was like, oh man, I haven't done that in so long. And one thing kind of led to another, and I started, kind of like building out this hobby of mine. And it just kind of like took on a life of its own. And, like that Cleveland Magazine, 30 interesting thing, and then one thing leads to another, and I'm donating them for charity, and it's it's a wild ride, but it's just
That's
kind
awesome.
of, it's really cool that I can like cause I'm such a big sports fan, and I love a lot of teams and a lot of sports all over the world, and to be interacting with the fans and meeting people and making friends in the fan bases that I already pay attention to is just really special for me, like on a personal note.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely accurate. I mean, I've had a very similar experience in the fact that like this channel obviously is very new, and doing like the watch alongs and talking with, like you said, sports fans and Borussia Dortmund fans from all over the world. It's super cool to make a connection like that. So that's an
really
awesome
cool.
story. But I am wondering what was the first, I guess, major stadium you created, and why that stadium?
Yeah, like I said, it was my my hometown baseball team. I'm a big Cleveland Indians fan. I grew up an Indians fan. Yeah, so I built that. I think I've actually, over the years, I guess I've done like 3 different ones. And last year I was really, really lucky. I got to donate it to the Cleveland Indians for their big, like they do like a big telethon weekend. So I donated it for that. It raised like $3,000 on a blind auction, and they let me throw out the first pitch like a week later. It was like a little
That's
feather
awesome.
in my
That's so
cap
cool.
kind of thing.
That's awesome. That's super cool. And I mean, I'm gonna ask you obviously a lot to do with the Stadium for Ants, but also because you have become a Borussia Dortmund fan, and I just want to ask you a couple questions about that as well. So, I mean, you obviously mentioned that you went to a game. So, were you a fan before you went to the game, or what led you to become a Borussia Dortmund fan? And then what brought you to Germany when you did see them live?
Yeah. Okay. Great question. So first of all, I'm a huge football fan, just generally speaking.
Good. Nice.
I have some family in Paris, and they're big Marseille fans. I have a lot of friends in the UK who are, some are United fans, some are Arsenal fans. And I also like Ajax a lot. But I've always known, like, as an architect, especially as an architect and a stadium nerd, Westfalen it's a special place, right? And so I was studying abroad last year, or 2 years ago now. And I'm like, okay, I'm over in Europe. I'm going to get to as many games as I possibly can. I got to go see Westfalen, right? It's like one of the premier stadiums in the whole world. I have to see this for myself. So, was I a fan of the club prior to that? I mean, I guess no, to be honest with you. Not that I was a Munich fan or anything like that. I was just neutral, right? Like I was new to the Bundesliga, and I was new to German football, like as a passionate fan. And me and my buddy went, and we stayed in Cologne for the night. We took the train. It was like 45 minutes. It blew my mind, the entire experience. Like, we get off the train halfway there, and we switch to the tram that takes you directly outside the stadium. And we're standing on the platform, and it's like empty. And all of a sudden, the Dortmund fans in their yellow start to climb up the stairs, and the train's getting packed, and it's growing out, and they're all drinking beers. And this is the funniest part, man. I'm standing on the train, and, you're like sardines, right? You're like packed next to each other. And this guy is like looking me up and down. I'm like, next to him, like shoulder to shoulder. And finally he looks at me and he goes, "You're not from here, are you?" I'm like, no, dude, I'm not. And he goes, "Well, welcome to Dortmund. We're so glad you're here. Have one of my beers." It was amazing.
It is. And I love that story because, like, I mean, obviously with the creation of the channel and the fact, I mean, I'm sure you're aware of this, that the Bundesliga in general is growing in the North American market, which is absolutely fantastic. It's always been my favorite league. And I always talk to people because a lot of my friends and a lot of my family don't know anything about the game. It's just, I just happened to fall in love with it at a young age. And I told them all, it's like, if there's one experience you guys want to have, because I've been to plenty of hockey games, football, like American football games, and there's nothing quite like going to Europe when I went backpacking there, and there's nothing like going to Dortmund. And so it's so cool to hear you kind of give pretty much like exactly what I wanted them to understand, that you weren't a fan of the club until you went there, until you got indulged in just what makes Borussia Dortmund. So that's absolutely Fantastic.
No, they just like they hook you, and it was so cool for me.
Yeah.
For me, it was. I got the impression, and I don't want to speak for anybody, but I definitely like walking around the ground before the game and finding our seats and like talking to people. I got the very distinct impression that the local fans were so happy to see someone like us, like North Americans there, because it's like in their head that they just assume that if an American comes to Germany to see a football game, they go to Munich. And they were so happy that we were there to see their club. And it's just it's special like that, man. What can I say?
It was. I mean, I've told you, probably haven't obviously heard this story, and I don't know how many actually my viewers would have saw it. It happened only once or twice, maybe in a watch along. But I told the story of me and my buddy, who he's a football fan as well. We went backpacking through Europe, and then a buddy flew over in a plane who knew nothing about the sport. He follows it now, but we went to a little local pub before the night before the game. And we drank there all night, and no one in there could speak a word of English. We obviously couldn't speak German, but yet they embraced us, and we drank with them all night. Yes. It was quite the experience. It was beautiful.
Exactly. But
yeah, it's special. So I mean, I've said it a million times. Once obviously, hopefully, COVID is disappearing, if you get the chance and you're a Dortmund fan or you're just a general curious mind and want to go see what it's like, do it. You will not regret it. But now, David, I'm going to get some of your thoughts on just the team in general this season. Yeah. So, we're 7 games in right now. So, do you want to give me your thoughts on how the first 7 games have went and what you're thinking BBB season is looking like?
Man, it's been I think everybody will agree it's been a little disappointing so far. I'm watching the Klassiker the other day, and I'm 60 minutes, and we're like, we can win this game. Didn't come out that way, of course, in the end. But I think Munich's not quite as strong as everybody wants to think. Maybe they are in Europe, but I think they're vulnerable in the league. I know a lot of people may not agree with that, but look at the results so far. Like there's chinks in that armor, and I feel like especially being able to hold on to Sancho, and I know he hasn't played very well so far this year, but we all know that he's going to come good because he's too talented not to. I really think that you can make a run at it this year. I really, really do. Yeah. And I'm just hoping that, especially like after Christmas time, that it starts to like pick up.
Yeah. And with the injuries to Davies and Kimmich doesn't help them firing out by any means. So, there's always a shot. Right. So I'll say right now, the 3 big competitions we're going in, the Cup, the League, and the Champions League, do you think we have a shot at winning silverware this year?
100%. 100%. I mean, you look. The squad has to perform, but let's be real here. This is one of the more talented BVB squads we've seen in a while. The club's always right there on the edge. This year they've got the squad. Make it happen, boys.
Yep, I agree. The talent is there. They're only 3 points behind Bayern. This season can go in many different ways, and yeah, I totally agree too. I mean, we have a shot, obviously, in the Cup in general, but the other 2, I think we got a decent shot as well. So, another question I do want to ask you that I am pretty interested in. You probably know mine, but who is your favorite BBB player?
It's Marco as well, man. It's Marco. Although I do,
he's easy like.
But I do have obviously as an American, I have a soft spot for Gio. I got a soft spot for Pulisic. I hate the fact that he's at Chelsea, but what can you do? Yeah, I just ordered my new Reina jersey. I didn't have a Reina shirt yet, so I had to get my hands on one.
Love it. Yeah, Gio's going to be someone special for us, and I think he really loves the club as well. I'm hoping he's going to stay for many years to come. It's obviously, yeah, it's obviously cool seeing a young American like that making his way and doing as well as he could. And let's hope he just keeps on trucking here. But
he's following it, and he's following in Christian's footsteps, which is so cool, right? Like
exactly.
And this is another thing that draws me to the club. Like being totally honest, that they're developing this. They've always had the reputation for developing young talent, but now they're developing this reputation for always having that one American talent, and that's just so cool for me to be. You know what I mean? It's like these are the guys that I watch on the national team, so it's like, yeah, of course I want to be, following that.
Yeah, and you almost want to see it as a marketing tactic, but it's a marketing tactic that turned beautiful because they produced two absolute gems so far, and I'm just hoping that Reina is going to stay for years to come because I think he's going to be just a superb talent there. But
well, that's just it.
yeah,
The marketing side's great, but it's the football production and developing that talent that for me is the most special part. So sorry to keep it.
Yeah, it's not. No, it's perfect. It's perfect because you can't just grab someone and just say, okay, he's American. I mean, let's hope he
Right.
succeeds. No, they've created two phenomenal players from scouting them from Hershey. Like it's incredible. It's incredible. But yeah, that's so cool. But we're gonna. I mean, I love your obviously getting your input obviously on the team, but we are here because you're the guy. You're the guy behind Stadium for Ants. So I've obviously taken a couple looks at the website and saw some of the awesome pieces that you've come up with, but I just want to talk about where you've showcased some of your charities because you've obviously done some amazing things raising money, and I just want to see where some of them come from.
Yeah, so it started out so when I started making these, I got like 3 or 4 stadium. This was 4 or 5 years ago now. And I got like 3 or 4 stadiums in, and they're all like sitting on my shelves, and I'm like, I'm never gonna be able to keep all of these. Like, I don't have room for them. So I decided. So that's how like the impetus for like, okay, I should just give these away for charity, right? It's a good thing to do, and I like to do good in the world, so that made sense for me. So I started donating them to charity. I love working with charities that are related to kids. I think that especially stuff that like provides sports outlets for kids. I did a fundraiser in Pittsburgh a couple of summers ago that was for a charity that's a little league for handicapped kids who aren't allowed to play in like regular baseball little league. Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that like I like to do that. More recently, I donated to Manchester Children's Hospital. I did an Old Trafford project. We raised some good money for that. And then the most recent one, I donated directly to Rangers FC's charity foundation. And we raised £12,000 which was just an unbelievable result.
That's absolutely incredible. And that's just so cool to hear someone like that doing stuff in charity. I mean, I was trying to participate in charity. I'm slacking a little bit. I was trying to grow Movember. Now, my charity is nowhere near as amazing as yours was, but I totally understand what you were saying about trying to do those incredible things that you were doing, and I would love to do anything in my power to try to give back the way that you have.
Well,
so
you look good, man. You look good. I can see it. You're doing good.
It was there. It just this stuff grows too quickly, and I'm lazy, but I need to get it off. I need to get the muzzy back, but. No, it's honestly incredible. And it's honestly such an honor to have someone just as genuine as yourself to come on here and do so much good in the world. But so we're gonna have a little clip playing for you guys that you guys can take a look under there. But for the next 4 questions, because the next 4 questions are directly related to the Westfalen, and I want to know, David, how long did it take you to complete the Westfalen?
Ooh, so my process is kind of 2 parts.
Okay.
First, I design everything in the computer. As an architect and an architecture student, I've picked up a lot of 3D software over the years that is super, super helpful for projects like this. So I can kind of design everything out and get a sense of scale and make sure the sizing is right and perspective and all of that. Do the Photoshop work to make sure all the skins are ready and the images are proper and I didn't miss anything. That's probably 100 hours per stadium, just on the digital design side, and then it's probably another 50 or 100, depending on the stadium. So it's somewhere between 150 and 200 hours per.
That's an incredible amount of work, man. That's fantastic. Which one of the stadiums? I don't know if you can remember because you said they're all generally around that, but which one took you the longest? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, no, it was the Amsterdam Arena, the Johan Cruyff Arena. Yeah, because it all comes down to the architecture, right? Like Westfalen is relatively straightforward. It's 4 stands, pretty square with the rounded corners. So that makes it easy from a construction perspective. The Amsterdam Arena is raised up off the ground. There's a road that goes under the pitch that's a parking lot, and then it's got these stanchions that go all the way around it. And it was a really challenging build, but I had a great time with that one.
Wow. All right. So, which one was the most frustrating? That was a question I wanted to. I'm assuming maybe it's the one that took you the longest, but I don't know if there was another part that made one that just unbelievably tedious.
No, it's that one was also the most tedious, but not necessarily the most frustrating. So it's because I'm an architect that I get frustrated at things that you wouldn't maybe think that I would get frustrated at. I get frustrated like when I see like two pieces next to each other and and then I'm looking at a photo of the stadium on my computer and I can tell that it's like a little out of scale, or it's not like quite the right length or quite the right distance, and like it just bugs me. And so then I go back and I redesign it and I reprint it all out. It's like
that's incredible. That's so cool. All right, Dave, I got one last question for you, and you don't have to answer it. It could be a little, I don't want to ruin anything that you have sneak peek, but no, it's pretty straightforward. But I don't know. Do you have? I guess it's a two-part. Do you have something that you're currently working on, and if so, do you want to share it with us? And is there something? What is a stadium, or what is something anywhere in the world that is something that you're very excited to do sometime in the future?
Oh, really interesting question, man. I'll go backwards.
Okay.
I'm excited. Right. Yeah, no. I'm really excited. So I have hopefully I'll be doing the Orange Velodrome in Marseille coming up here.
Yes.
And like I said, man, like I have family in France. They're huge Marseille fans. So that, you know, there's an emotional connection there just because like they're the people, like you were saying, like I don't have any family in the States that are into football either. So I'm like self-taught and I like, you know, grew my fandom of the game myself, except for them. Like my French family are the ones who like introduced me. And so because it's their club, like that's special, right? There's a,
yeah, absolutely.
You know, kind of like hits you in the heart. As far as what I'm working on now, I'm working on Highbury, which is the old, you know, you guys know, I'm sure you know the old Arsenal Stadium.
Yeah.
But Westfalen is not quite done yet.
Ooh, look at that.
And I'll be planting it with trees, and there'll be, you know, all the little buildings around. Most of them are there right now. You can even see Strobel's is there.
Yep.
Strobel's pub. Yeah. So once it's all done, you know, it's just a question of what I'm gonna do with it. I haven't been able to find a really good charity in Dortmund to work with. So if any of your viewers have any ideas, definitely get at me. You can find me all over the web at Stadiums for Ants, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. It's all there. And please, guys, like if you know of somebody, if you know of a good program that we could work with here, send me a message.
No, absolutely, guys. I'm gonna put obviously every link we can possibly find for Stadiums for Ants in our descriptions. You guys can definitely contact him that way. You guys can contact me. I can put you in contact with him as well, and we can just hopefully get something here so we can find obviously a charity to work with and raise some money for a good cause, and someone can walk away with that fantastic stadium.
That's right. And you never walk alone, right? So
come on, we know this. But that's incredible. I wanted to ask that question because I know that you mentioned to me beforehand that your family's from Marseille, so I assume that's what you're going to be saying. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, so I mean that wraps up our little Q&A here. So David, one last time, is there anything else that you wanna say here before we take off?
Yeah, I just want to say that you know, people talk about how cool the yellow wall is, the Gelbe Wand, and you cannot possibly understand it unless you see it in person. You read about it on Wiki and you watch videos and you hear about, oh, it's 26,000 people. And when you're in that stadium and you're watching them pogo and sing and wave their flags, it looks like 500,000 people. And it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen in my life.
Absolutely. They don't stop bouncing, jumping up and down and freaking out for the entire game. And it's you and I went to between the two of us, we went to two games. The game that I went to had 4 goals in it, and the game you went to had 6. So I say we got pretty lucky going over there and watching that stadium erupt.
Wait, but I gotta ask you one question, man.
What is that?
Favorite Marco Reus goal ever?
Because
I've got one, but I want to know what yours is.
So for me, it's I have a couple in mind. The one was pretty special for me, just as a little romantic. I don't know if a lot of people would quite remember this one. This one isn't about the goal itself, but if you guys are familiar, obviously Marco Reus, Mario Götze, and Andre Schürrle are all best friends. So are at least very, very good friends. And there was that one season that we had, the poor season, where we finished in 4th place, and all three of them seemed to be injured at different times. And then all of a sudden, they all came back at the same time. We played in the 4-2-3-1. Götze was at our cam. Schürrle was on the left. Reus was on the right. They all started. It was a real cool moment for them. And Reus scored a goal in that game, and it was just a very emotional thing between friends. But for me, my favorite goal has to be the goal he scored against Bayern Munich at home in the game that we won 3-2 in the title season, only because it really gave me hope that this was a season where we were going to take home the title. And the goal he had was fantastic. We were down 2-1 in the game, ended up coming back and winning it with an Alcácer chip. It was absolutely sensational. So that one really sticks out. But that other one had a little heartfelt moment for me.
So it's funny because that's the one that I was gonna say, the Marco half volley in front of the wall against Bayern, and it was I actually didn't see that goal live. It was like 2 months before I went to see the game I went to.
Yeah. And
I go back and I watch the highlight, and he hits the goal and he runs over to the wall and he's pointing to his ear like this, and I'm like, bro, that's ridiculous. It
was beautiful. It was a beautiful goal. It was a beautiful game. That was a thriller. That was one of my favorite games I just touched on actually in our past clashes. But yeah, David, honestly, man, this was awesome. I really appreciate you coming on to the channel here.
Thank you for having me on.
We're hoping to do something here. I'm going to get in touch with you obviously after we get off here and just talk about ways we can try to help out and get some type of charity involved with you, because it's been absolutely awesome. So David, with that, you can just give your little wave goodbye, and we will take you out of the room right now.
Nice to see you guys.
All right, guys. So that was a Q&A with David for Stadiums for Ants, and I don't think anyone can disagree that was absolutely incredible. He had so many cool stories about that, and what he's doing is absolutely sensational. So if you know of any charity, or if you know of any way you can help him whatsoever, put a comment in and just let us know, and hopefully get a contact with him, and we can do something incredible here. I got a couple ideas that are spinning in my head that I'll touch with David, and hopefully we can get something cool going. But if you guys are new around here, guys, be sure to obviously comment, like, and subscribe. And this was just an honestly amazing video, and I just can't wait for you guys to see it and comment, and hopefully bring some good to the world. So until next time, guys, take care and see you soon.